Welcome to Unlocking My Potential, a podcast all about women in STEM sharing their stories, struggles, and the lessons that shape their paths. I'm Natalie, and I'm really glad to have you here today. Welcome, everyone, to Unlocking My Potential. I'm here today with Alison Hart, which she'll be sharing her experience a little bit with a computer science degree, network engineer, and IT, a transition to software engineer later, some lessons learned, some challenges, and everything in between. So, very excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here. I'm really excited to share, and I love what you're doing with the podcast. As soon as I heard about it, I was like, this is amazing. It's something I needed as
Thank
a young professional and still do. Like, this is something that's so beneficial.
No, I appreciate it. And I hope that this episode gets out to a lot of people, that your story, which I know it's an amazing story, will be able to inspire other people and just get everyone to learn a little bit about you and a bit about your path and your whole full story. So, with that being said, I always like to start with all the way from the beginning. So, what was the first moment that sparked your interest within the STEM world?
Actually have the exact moment. And so my dad worked in IT. He did IT for years from before I was born and then switched careers a little bit later, but is back in IT now. And so he worked for a hospital when I was like very young, and they had to like take your daughter to work day. And so I went there. I remember him opening up one of the network closets they had, and I'm like 5 years old, staring at this closet full of wires dripping down. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so that like moment has really stuck in my mind. And so when I eventually became a network engineer later on and was staring at my own rack of like tripping with wires, I'm like, oh, this is full circle moment.
That is amazing. I love that. I feel like I can connect a little bit in a sense. For me, it was very, very similar. My dad was an electrical engineer, but he always worked with like telecommunications and computers. So apparently there's a picture somewhere out there. I don't know where, but my mom has a picture of every time my dad will work, if he was working from home, he had a little like very old tiny computer next to him. And then I'll just be there in the computer just typing and like in a computer that wouldn't even work. But that connection, I completely understand. And I think it's a beautiful connection of some you seeing your father doing an amazing work. I love companies that also do take your kids today, like to work.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
so
no,
much fun.
it's fantastic. Like I being able to even past that point, like growing up, seeing him with like technology, because he was always like gathering tech. And so he had bunches of different computers and like we'd open them up and look at the internals and everything. And I like the physicality of um like electronics and computers is the thing that really got me into it. So like as a kid, that's so impactful.
100%. No, I love that. And then from that spark and the interest into the STEM world, what was the process afterwards of you making some decisions when you were in high school of, okay, this is really the path that I'm going to take, going from high school to college, selecting university? How was that whole process for you?
Yeah, so I think everybody, or at least most people, can relate to being in high school and being like, I actually have to make a decision at the end of this thing, and that's terrifying. And so, up until probably my junior year, I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do. Because for a little while, I debated with the idea of like being a vet and going down that route because I love animals, very passionate about that. But I was like, I think I'm kind of turning more into computer science. And I started kind of messing with code in my spare time, doing like some very minor Python projects. And so the funny thing is, I lived 10 minutes away from Florida Poly when it opened. And so I had lived there for most of my life. And so all of a sudden, Florida Poly opens, and I'm like, hey, this is perfect. And their degree programs really appealed to me. And I was like, I think that this is kind of the perfect opportunity to where I can actually dive into studying this thing. And yeah, so that was the moment that I was like, I think this is probably the path I should go down.
Well, that is amazing. That is so funny. I think out of everyone I know that went to Florida Polytechnic, you're probably the first person that I've talked to that lives super close to the university.
Yeah.
That is awesome, and sometimes that's kinda how it is. Some things just happen in life where it's that moment of, "Okay, let's try this out," because it's nearby, it's a new program, it's a new university, test it out, and I think I love the connection that you just made up. I was in between, like, a computer science degree and then vet because that was me. Really wanted vet or a marine biologist or something with animals, and then in high school, I took a few classes, and I was like, I cannot do blood, I cannot do this and that, so it kind of lead me to computer science degree as well, so that's just really funny. So you had in this university, new program, super close to your house, and you decided, "I'm gonna apply for this university." Talk a little bit about your whole university experience. I know you had really awesome participations and really cool things that you did throughout your college program.
Yeah, it was a huge growth experience for me because I was so shy growing up. It was genuinely like a struggle for me just getting out of my shell. And so going there was really nice because it is a really small university. And so it wasn't like too overwhelming. And it was kind of a good transition for me trying to break out of my shell. So my first year, I spent literally just kind of learning to talk to people and making connections with people. And so from there, I loved studying. I loved education, loved that whole experience, and so I wanted to kind of help other people with that process. So at one point I was a TA, at another point I was a lab assistant for the cybersecurity lab at the university. And so those things really kind of pushed me to do more interaction, which was like that was a big part of my experience was like not just the educational learning, but the personal growth of pushing myself out of my shell. And another thing that I also did there was I was part of the presidential ambassador program, which is a group of students that kind of do outreach, that talk to sponsors or investors at the university. And so I had to learn how to market the university and market myself. It's a very uncomfortable experience for someone who's very shy. Learning how to do that was huge, absolutely huge. So yeah, that obviously doesn't really touch on any of like the technological aspects, but I think so much of school is or and college especially is the human element often over even the projects that you're doing.
Oh, no, 100%. And I think that those skill sets that you learn in college, that sometimes you're a little bit forced to learn because you are surrounded by so many people. And it's the first moments that you just kind of, I always like to say, like, kind of like throw on the world by yourself, where you don't have like your family glued to you or your very close friends. It makes you learn those soft skills for sure. And those are super important skills, not just the technical ones, but especially the soft skills because when you do interviews or when you try to reach out to companies, you need to have those. You need to be able to have, especially communication aspect of it, to be able to network, to be able to fully, properly express what you have to offer for those companies. And then once you do get those jobs, also trying to growth within the company, try to communicate with people. So that is such an important skill to have, which it is like the soft skills. And I love that you fully
Absolutely.
just touch base on that first, besides the technical aspects of it, because university is so much more than just you go to class, you learn your courses, you get a degree, and you move on. It's a community that you build, there's a network that you build, you make friends for life, you know, you meet so many amazing people that will impact your life. So that is amazing. For the presidential ambassador program that you did, how does the full program works in regards to how is the like application process? I know it's a very selective program. What is the expectations of each person does something different or everyone kind of works together? Can you go a little bit more in details with that one?
Sure. So the way that the selection process work is literally a like a job interview. It was my first experience ever like that. It was a table interview with a select number of people from who were actually presidential ambassadors and others who are just involved in the university. It was pretty scary for me as like the first experience that I had had like that. I actually interviewed twice. The first time I interviewed, I did not get in. And I'm actually very thankful for that. I needed some time to become a real person, an independent person. And so it was difficult to like have that rejection the first time, but it caused me a lot of growth because not to get too off track, but I had spent a long time being a perfectionist and really struggling with rejection. I can talk more about this later. But yeah, so that was a big moment for me. And then going back to the interview again and like having the bravery to do that and look at all those people again and be like, I want to keep trying and do it again. And yeah, so it's the table interview. And then once you get in, it is essentially a volunteer program. You can sign up for different events. You can sign up for different investor interviews and tours. A lot of the things that we did were tour people around and show them the school and then basically try to advocate for them to invest in the school. There were other board events that we would serve at and do networking. So on one hand, it's like you're investing time into the university because you believe in the things that they're doing, but you're also making these connections with people in the community, with people in the Florida legislature that are really beneficial for you personally.
That is amazing. I love that. And yeah, any type of rejection, it's hard, especially
Yeah.
at that point in life. I think for me, any rejection I got in college was just it felt so much worse than anything else because it's like your first time trying something new, your first time getting a rejection in a specific area, and that crushes everyone a little bit inside. I will say
Yeah.
that point, I think it's very like a very strong decision of okay, this didn't work. Do I keep working harder or trying to grow some of the skill sets that made me technically not pass and not get that? Or did I just give up and go do something else or whatever? So I'm really glad that you chose the first path of okay, I didn't get this. Yes, it hurts. And yes, it's crushing a little bit. But I wanna do it again. I wanna learn those skills. I wanna grow as a person and I wanna retry. And then you getting to actual do that position, right? Because it is a volunteer work, but it is a position within the university. So that is amazing.
Absolutely.
I'm glad that you did the program. I'm sure you did amazing when you did join the program. So that is amazing. And then from college, you go to this very brand new university, very small, very new university, learning everything new. At what point did you decide the career paths that you wanted to take? Some internship programs. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. Thought cybersecurity was fascinating. I mean, you grow up seeing kind of these like spy movies, these like in the early 2000s and 90s this is like such a big thing because the internet and the technology as a whole is just exploding. And so I thought that that was really interesting. The idea of like protecting information and someone trying to crack systems or yeah, just securing information as this became a thing that we had to do. So not only did I, as I went on, I kind of narrowed down into I want to do computer science. I knew that pretty much from the beginning, but I wasn't sure which path. And then I was like, I think cybersecurity is the thing that appeals to me the most out of the concentrations. So as I went down that path, like I said, I served as a lab assistant. And so we got to work with Kali Linux, which is a security focused OS. And that was super interesting. We held some capture the flag events. There were like some workshops that we held, and that really just sparked my interest into being like, I think network security and security in general is something that's always going to be like a core tenet of who I am. I have pivoted since a bit, but that kind of foundational knowledge was so interesting to me. The cryptography and general like principles of security and how to apply them. I have always just thought that was fascinating.
That's kind of the path that I took later on in life too, because I do work in like a security department now. And it's so cool because you don't know what to expect. I think it's one of those departments and industries where any day something new can happen and someone can try to crack things in a very different way that you've never seen it before, and then you have to find a whole new solution, and it's a very exciting industry, to be honest.
It
So
is.
I see it, the passion in you as you're talking about it, and I also understand completely the reasons to go into cybersecurity. It's such a new world still, and I think it is going to be a new world for a very long time, especially with new technologies coming in like AI right now. Okay, how do
Yeah,
you keep things secure from this now? So it's always growing. Is there's always so much room to learn and to grow within the cybersecurity world, which I think,
absolutely. It's never gonna go away. As long as we have technology in general, it at least should never go away. Hope
yeah,
to God that it won't. But yeah, especially with like the advent of AI, I don't think a lot of people, everybody, it's just a lot of hype right now. And a lot of people aren't thinking about like the long term preventative strategies of using things safely. So yeah, I think that's fascinating. And the network security aspect, like I mentioned, like as we kind of talk about my experiences in network engineering, I can go into that more. But I think network security is has always been fascinating.
so let's go a little bit into more of like the roles that you've had. What was the first internship opportunity that you had as you were in college?
Yeah, so I ended up choosing an internship with a small company that was based out of Florida. They were a furniture company, and so the internship that I had was network intern. Before that, I had interviewed for an internship with a security company. So it's kind of interesting that I ended up choosing the other one. I did have the opportunity to do that internship, but there was just kind of a better fit at and like a better long-term roadmap with this other opportunity. So I went into network engineering as the intern. And that it was a one summer opportunity, as internships often are. They had me doing lots of different things, lots of different like rollout projects that they had that were very kind of like base IT introduction into system configuration and to maintenance. And that was my like first real world application of anything that I had been learning in school. And it was really interesting finding out that I didn't know a whole lot about how to do real world system anything. And so I'm very thankful that I kind of started at a very basic level there and kind of got to build up some of those really fundamental skills working with technology, working in an enterprise environment. From there, I developed into an networking contractor with them. And so throughout my last year of university, I continued working with them part time as a contractor. And then at the end of that, they offered me a full time position as a junior network engineer. And I loved that. That was like I said, a really fantastic introduction into how to work within a business, within like a functioning business, not necessarily research, not necessarily product focus, something that you have to have like daily maintenance, refining, and keeping up a network so that individual business locations can continue operating. So often now, whenever I go to like a Walmart or any store, I look at their payment system and I'm like, I used to do something with that. I used to configure those payment systems, or I recognize this vendor. And like, I'm thinking, what does your network cabinet look like underneath your desk? Because one of the things I got to do as an intern was go to individual locations of these stores and configure their equipment in their store, which was so fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating to see how people in the real world like maintain or don't maintain their network infrastructure and how like I'm coming in as like a little 19-year-old intern and I'm like, "Can I see your network cabinet, please?" And they're like, "Sure." And it was great. It was awesome. So it was still building some of those like real world soft skills of like calling people and being like IT support and getting like hands-on experience in those environments.
That's amazing. I love that you had that opportunity as you were in college with your internship and then working part-time still for them and then getting that full-time job um, right afterwards, which it shows the amazing job that you're doing for the company 100%. And it's awesome that you got to see that perspective of going into the stores, not just like staying like corporate into like a building, but actually going to see the reality of the situation. I like to say when you go into different vendors sometimes or different stores or whatever the case may be, depending on what your company does, and just having a live moment of this is how it looks like and this is what I get to do with this job. That is amazing. And it's such a great experience to do, especially as a 19-year-old in college of
Oh, yeah.
okay, I know nothing and now I'm jumping into learning so much. And that's something that I always think it's so funny. We learn a lot in college. We do. Classes are amazing. We get to learn like the basics and the principles of everything. But depending on the job that you do, when you actually go into those internships or those jobs, things are so different.
So different.
Actually getting the perspective and the base of, okay, I saw this chart of what a network system can be in class, but actually seeing live and you're like, what in the world is this?
Exactly.
It's just so different sometimes. And you look and you're like, okay, I kind of know some things, the basic things, but that's when you actually get to have the real world experiences that you fully learn so much. So I think having an internship, especially doing positions like that of, okay, this is a career path that I want to go into. This is something that is really interesting to me, but getting the opportunity on an internship to actually see it, that's where you make, I think, the decisions usually a lot of people of, yes, I love this, not just the concept of it, but actually being there and doing the work. Or sometimes it's like, okay, maybe not. Maybe I really like the classes and the basic concept, but this is not for me. So I love that you had that opportunity and you're able to do that role. When you were making that decision of okay, you have a network engineering internship opportunity and then an internship opportunity within cybersecurity, what was some of the pros and cons and what was in your mind at that point that made you choose, okay, I'm going to stay to the network side and that's where I'm going to go?
The really interesting thing is that on paper, I think it would have made, quote unquote, the most sense to have done the security internship because it fit with my concentration. It fit with some of the things I was learning. But when I went and I interviewed the engineering manager of that other company was a woman, and she and I immediately connected. And she's like, I have some really cool things that I want you to do. And she's like, I would be so excited to work with a young woman in the industry. And she was very passionate. She was extremely inspiring. And I'm like, I think I could probably end up having more opportunities if I go this route. I felt like at the other location, it would have been a little bit more like you kind of sit in front of a computer all day and you monitor things, was essentially what they told me. Like, there might be some opportunity to work on some code projects, some scripting stuff, but like basically you're going to be sitting in a security room and doing monitoring. The other one, I was going to be able to do so many hands-on projects. It was a very small company, but at the same time, there was so much going on. There were so many different departments. There's logistics, there's business intelligence, there's marketing and e-commerce and the IT department themselves. And so I felt like I was going to get a much more well-rounded experience, and that was absolutely the case. I'm so thankful for all of the learning that I had there because it was so grounded and in like reality, not so much like research. And like there's obviously nothing wrong with that, but having all of those fundamental lessons when I was really just starting out was so helpful. So in the end, it was totally the right decision.
Glad. I'm glad you felt that way. And sometimes that's literally how it is. It's sometimes just one person in an interview that changes everything. Like
Yeah.
100%. Is those connections that they make. And also I love, which is very rare, but I love when they do put a woman to do interviews, to be
Yes.
honest with you. So it shows the perspective a little bit also of how they do have a little bit more diversity in the company. And a lot of times you do make, sadly enough, it is the truth, but you do make a bit of like a stronger connection if you are interviewing with a woman. There are some things that only we will be able to understand. And I see the excitement in them of, "Oh my gosh, it's another woman trying to get into this world," which there's not a lot of us into the STEM world either, but especially specific different areas. So I love that it was, first of all, a woman interviewing you, that you're able to connect and just have that feeling of, okay, this is it. Like that's kind of how the feeling that I explained. It's okay, I had these interviews, but this is where it's going, and it's amazing. And also the opportunity that you had of actually getting hands-on, having so many projects, and the excitement that she had during the interview of, I have so much that I want to teach you and that I want you to do and get involved in. That's where you grow so much as a person and also in your career path, getting the knowledge. Instead of
Yeah.
the internships where sometimes they don't trust interns to do things much. I think that's kind of how I feel. I've had different internships experiences where some internships, they throw you out there and they're like, you got this. There's so many different opportunities. You work with different people. You get to actually help them find different solutions for problems. And you're going through the actual program and learning how to do a job. Where some other internships, they don't give people much opportunity because I don't know if they're scared that we're gonna mess up, which we will, but that's how we learn,
Of
right?
course.
Everyone learns from making a mistake and then we learn from it and we get better at it and that mistake will never be done again. But I just love companies that just do give that experience to interns of, here, you can actually get hands on and go and do it. And if you mess up, I'm here to back you up. I'm here to
Yeah,
help you and to teach you. And that's, I think, to me personally, the best way of learning. So I'm glad you went with that feeling that you had of, this is it. Like I had this really good connection. It's gonna be more hands on. And I'm glad you still feel that way, that you made the right decision for yourself. So that is the best
absolutely.
feeling ever, instead of looking back and be like, "Ah, should I have done the other way?" Or so I'm glad you still feel excited about that opportunity that you had in the beginning of your career path. And then going from there, from that networking position that you had with the company as a full-time job employee, what was your career path moving forward a little bit from there?
Yeah, I stayed there for a few years, and at the end, I could just tell that it was time, and I would really like to try something different. I decided that maybe I don't wanna do only networking because I did study so much development in my degree program. I was like, I would like to see if I want to do pure software engineering. I did like little bits of scripting and programming at my network engineering role, as you do, but I really wanted to see if I would enjoy that, if I would like that. And so I ended up taking a different role and interviewed with Red Hat. That I never really thought that I would be able to get involved there because Red Hat's like one of those big companies. And so I interviewed with them and loved the people. Absolutely was so enthralled with what they were doing. The people I interviewed with were fantastic. And I was like, I really hope I get the opportunity to work with them. And I got an offer the next day for that role, which was very exciting. I know a lot of people struggle with hearing back from interviews. And I think this was 2021. So I know it's gotten significantly worse, but I was very thankful that I actually got a response and it was a good response. So the role that I took from there was it was called partner engineering. And so there were some aspects of development to that role, but it was actually very customer facing. And a lot of what I did was interacting with people who partner with Red Hat and who want to do development. And so the role was kind of like a mixture of QA and customer interaction and development. And so coming from a role where I was doing a lot of like support facing stuff as a network engineer, since I was in kind of like that tier two, tier three role, which is like still support, but also doing some architecture, I kind of continued that in this new role and still like continue developing up those soft skills of figuring out how to translate business concepts into technical terms and vice versa, which is huge. If you are in, I think if anyone is in STEM, you have to be able to have that translation ability to be able to communicate. If you can only communicate to engineers and no one else, you're going to hit a ceiling somewhere. Like there will be some loss of opportunity if you can't figure out how to make that translation. And so that was the role I had for a while, and that was awesome. I loved the people on that team, really loved that experience, but it still wasn't so much pure software engineering, and so I wanted to get more into that. And so there happened to be an opportunity that came up. I decided I'm going to jump into it. Was very terrified because it's continuing to dive more into like a more technical focused role. But I decided that if I was going to do it at any time, I need to do it now, more toward the front of my career. And yeah, I'll stop talking now and let
No,
you
no, you're fine.
have your
No,
thoughts.
I love it. That is a huge company, to be honest, and I know a lot of people that are like, "Oh, I'll love to work there." So, let's start with that. That is amazing. The one point that you made that literally it's, like, kind of, like, in the back of my mind right now is the in between, I like to call. You have the technical knowledge, the technical expertise, but you also have the people skills knowledge, and you're able to communicate with customers. If you have that, you're golden. You are
Golden.
good. Literally what you said, I feel exactly the same way of all you have is the technical skills and you are not able to communicate with customers, you do hit that ceiling, just like you said. It's just the reality of the situation. It's gonna get to a point that for you to keep growing in your career, you have to be able to work with customers. You have to be able to have those conversations and communications that not a lot of people do. Some people are extremely smart and they would create the most amazing technology aspect of it. But if you're not able to communicate to just a regular person of what you're doing and what I like to say, plain simple English words, then it's really, really hard to kind of move on to the next steps of your career. So I completely agree with that one. That's kind of the role that I do a little bit. I'm the in between person where we have the technical people, we have the customers, and like I'm right in between. And there's not a lot of us out there, to be honest. Sometimes to me, I'm like, this kind of just makes sense that you need to be able to take your technical skills and communicate to the business and customers, but there's not a lot of people that can do that still.
Yeah, there's really not. Like I think when we're studying in university and when we're starting our career, we forget how many different or not we don't even know, not even forget. You don't know how many different roles and layers of roles are in there, that it's not just technical and non-technical. There are so many positions in between that you can find. Maybe you don't necessarily want to do pure engineering and you want to do like a product role, a product owner. You want to be a technical lead, but maybe not doing so much of the implementation. Or maybe you do want to go into management and be a very technical manager and you want to kind of make those communications between the business and between engineering, and like finding out that there are so many different things in there. It's kind of a relief, like maybe I don't necessarily want to do engineering forever, but I want to do it for a long time. But if I ever get tired of that, there's always other options. So like knowing that that was out there is just kind of like a weight off your chest.
That you literally explained word by word of how I felt, to be fairly honest. Because after graduating or even while I was in college, I just knew there was a feeling inside of me, I don't know how to explain I just knew that I did not wanna do the technical work. Like, that was just me. I was like, I love learning the concepts, I think it's so amazing, but I just felt like there's so many people around me that were so good at it, so good at the coding aspect, so good at technical skills aspect, and my main strength, I would say at that point, I felt in college was completely the opposite. It was more of the soft skills, communicating with people, talking to people, getting my face out there. And I was just so nervous and so scared throughout college of, okay, I'm gonna have to get a job and sit in the computer and do coding and do this and that. And it's not really what I wanna do. But then you jump into a company and you see there's so much more. And literally that's the feeling that I had. It was just like this whole weight of I can breathe. This is gonna be awesome. I can take still all the knowledge and the technical expertise that I have and translate that into a like a role in the in between, right? Like I always say, where I don't have to fully work with just the business and have to go maybe into like a business administration degree or something, or fully focus into that technical skills, but there is the middle ground, the in between. And I don't think there's a lot of people that know. I think it's growing slowly, like project management, product management roles, they are growing now and they are more well known 100%. Um, but when I was in college, I don't think they were that big, or people didn't really talk about it much because I was
Yeah.
not aware of it.
They definitely didn't, and so relate to what you were saying about, like, being in college and being like, there are people who just absolutely excel, and being like, "I feel like I fit somewhere in the middle of this where I like the technical, but I also like the soft skills side, and I really enjoy that," which was funny being so shy growing up and then being like, "Oh, I actually like this." So that was great. But yeah, the like I do hope because I'm not in those university spaces now, but I would so want if I was still there to either communicate that to people or have that communicated to me that like there's a lot more expansion than that. And so yeah, I would be really interested to know if that is the case in computer science or engineering now, if that's like being talked about. I don't know.
No, that's a good question. I don't know neither. Because I know when, at least for us, right? What I remember is the big push of positions in a career path based on your major and based on what you're doing with your program. And not necessarily touching base on there's so much more than this tiny umbrella within your major kind of thing. So that is a really good question that I actually don't know the answer to, and I would love to start doing some research and like trying to figure it out if things are different now. But I just know that usually that's the case
Mhm.
when you're doing a major and a degree. They kind of focus on, okay, this is the degree you're getting, this is the path you're gonna take, and it's like, but I don't want that. I want the degree. I just don't want fully the path.
Exactly. And I think it almost sets up some of us for failure as we're coming out of university to be, like, really nervous and kind of be dissatisfied with, like, the idea of the future to be like, "I don't think I wanna be, like, a level 100 coder and, like, be, like, creating my own or whatever." Like, maybe you do wanna do that, but some people may not, and that's totally fine. And, like, coming out of those degree programs and being like, "I know I'm probably not gonna go there, but I don't know what I want to do," is really scary, and that's part of, like, the normal transition of life, like, that's some of that is just gonna happen, but being able to have those voices around you to go like, "It's okay. There are other things, and also you can transfer these skills to anything." A computer science degree or an engineering degree, those skills are so transferable. The, like, learning things and the principles that you learn in those programs are applicable literally anywhere. So whether you do research, whether you do pure engineering or STEM, or you do something completely different and you open your own business and it has nothing to do with STEM, that's all of these skills are so transferable. And I think there's a level of like kind of almost shame about, like, considering not doing the thing that you did your degree for that, like, I really wish we could kinda shake off, you know? And especially in STEM, because one of the things I experienced was when I had my internship, my in IT, there was a lot of negativity that I heard from people around me about, like, "This isn't pure programming, you're studying computer science, this isn't cybersecurity." And I heard from, like, some pretty impactful voices around me, them saying like, "You shouldn't be doing this, you should be doing something else." And I knew that this is something that was gonna benefit me for the long term. And so that was really difficult to deal with, like, the opinions of other people and them kind of trying to shoo me into a certain thing when, like, it's really not necessary. There's so much out there that, like, these things can be applicable to, and that's where I am now.
No, yes, just yes to everything you just said. Um, And the thing is, and you mentioned a good point at the end. I don't know why. I really do not understand why. But when someone is in an IT department or doing an IT role, there's always people saying negative things about it. Why? I don't know. Because usually someone that is in IT, a lot of people do have a background in STEM. A lot of people do have those degrees because you do need the skill sets to be able to do that job as well. I don't know what the expectation of people is. It's like, oh, an IT person comes and like fixes things and changes things. Like, no, they have on like STEM education knowledge behind all the job that they do. So this is way harder than what people make it seem. Also, why not every single person is able to get an IT job? Because if it was that easy, anyone would be working in IT, right? That's
Right.
that is literally it's something that I've seen it so many times in college and even now of people look down a little bit on I don't know if it's the title or the expectations of what the role is or whatever it is. I just don't understand with that
Yeah,
one.
it's really strange because that was my experience for a long time, and especially having looking up so much to my dad who I IT is a critical thing. But IT is never going away as long as we have technology. Think about all of the different outages that have happened over like the past couple of years that have been significant. These are infrastructure related things, and having people who are good at what they do, who are knowledgeable in many different STEM principles and well trained, like that is such an it's an awesome role. An incredibly admirable position to have. And so yeah, it was really confusing to me all throughout that time because I'm like, I don't really want to go into like academic research if that's what you're saying that I should do. I love the physicality of technology. And if that's something that interests someone, like IT could be a great role for them. So, yeah, we need to really reclaim the positivity around that instead of just being like, you should be programming all day, which I'm like, okay, that's kind of what I do now, but also stop.
No, I completely understand. And I do think that that's a main thing and a main point that one, people don't talk about it either. The whole IT perspective and being looked down. And two, it is a major important position to have. Literally what you mentioned, like the outages, who is dealing with that? Not us. I'm not dealing with it. They are. They're making sure that everyone is good to go. So it's such an important position and such an important role. And yes, I do always recommend people to look into. That's something that it's interesting to you. Forget about the voices. Don't listen to anything or anyone. Just do what you want. And I'm really glad that you stick to it as well. That you didn't let all the voices and all the people around you kind of trying to lean into a different path when you knew this is where I want to be right now. This is an area that I want to grow and I want to learn and I enjoy doing it. And you stay strong to that. To me, it was the same thing, the same feeling of, okay, I changed my major too many times. But at the end, I graduated with a data analytics program, and everyone was pushing me into, okay, a data science, a data engineer, or AI at that point, like machine learning, artificial intelligence, um, and some of the software development positions. And in my mind, I'm like, nope, no, I just don't wanna do it, that is not for me, I know it, and actually doing an internship as, like, a project engineer showed me of, wow, I can take all the skill sets that I've learned and actually do something that is way more enjoyable to me, where my skill sets align a little bit more, where I'm not gonna sit on the computer and code for 8 hours a day, that's never what I wanted to do, I've always wanted to work with people a little bit more, but there's just literally that expectation of, okay, you get a degree, now you have to do this. Now you have to sit on the computer and code. It's just not
Exactly.
true. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. And the other perspective too that I've noticed is we go into a STEM education and let's say I'll throw me. I got a data analytics degree. There's a huge expectation and conversation of, okay, now you go and you apply into tech companies, right? And what I tell everyone is there is STEM in every single industry. You can go into healthcare, you can go into hospitality, you can go into anything that you want utilizing the STEM degree that you got and the STEM education and finding a position, even if your passion it is, let's say software development. you can be a software developer for any industry out there. You do not have to go into a tech company. And that's also something so huge to me that it was never talked about in college. In college, it was such a big focus of you do the role from your degree and you go into a tech company. And it's like, no, the world is so much bigger than a tech company and just these careers that comes from the degree. There's just so much more out there that is just not talked about.
Well, that's so good. It's like I mean, it fits perfectly into my story as well with like thinking I maybe want to go with a cybersecurity company versus like going with like a retail chain. And those industries really need STEM people, frankly, more than the tech industry does. The tech industry is extremely saturated with people who have graduated from tech. But if you think about medical, the medical field, like you were saying, other like transportation as well, like these industries that are so critical to the world that like will kind of provide the perfect opportunity for you to also get different experiences than you would in like a startup or tech focus if you're like not necessarily interested in like pure tech and you want some more probably human focused roles. Those are awesome places for that. At the company that I interned with, we did in-house development for our apps and we had developers. I with my family, my dad and my sister who also worked in the medical industry for a while as more of the like on a project side. She worked with those systems that they have like a lot of in-house development apps and they need people. Those industries would benefit so much from having knowledgeable developers, knowledgeable engineers, and infrastructure focused people. They need that. So it's like the perfect marriage of people who want to maybe not go into pure tech and also these industries that are hungry for people who need them.
100%. 100%. And you can also match some of like your other passions and hobbies, right? We both
Oh, yeah.
about how, okay, we were in between a computer science degree and being a vet. Like what two very opposite worlds, but you could work in the STEM world within a vet clinic or within a hospital or within anything and kind of do a little bit of a mix of okay, I got this degree. I am a software developer, but I've always wanted to work with animals. And I've always wanted to, to do something in that aspect as well and kind of trying to find the in between, trying to find a merge between things. There's so much out there. There's so many opportunities that people just sometimes don't even look into. Um, I do have a lot of people that I know because my brother's in college right now, some of his friends and his fiance that are graduating with computer science degrees. And one, it's really, really hard to get a job within the tech world. There's too many of us. There's just too many. Think that you're competing with every single computer science person that just got a degree right now. But as I was looking online, because we were having these conversations of there's no jobs out there. I looked online and I found 55 jobs. And I was like, there's so much out there, just not within the tech companies. But if
Yeah.
that's what you still want to do, there's so much opportunity for you. And that's something that never crossed your minds to look outside of the tech companies. And it's always like, oh, I look into the big tech companies and then the middle size and then the smaller size. Maybe sometimes a startup works more for you and for what you want to do than a big tech because startup you're going to be able to be involved with so many different roles in people or a big tech you're kind of doing your own role because there's too many people doing other things
Yeah.
or just like what I mentioned look outside of the tech companies they just don't think about it is the very like a little bit of like the narrow mind that a lot of college student comes out of college with I did this. This is the only path that I have. And it's like, no, there's 20 paths. You just have to open your mind a little bit more, expand that, the curiosity a little bit of what's out there. What is something that I truly enjoy doing it that I can mix with what I'm graduating with right now and just making the changes. So, and that's why I love the first opportunity that you had outside of college and doing your internship of you did not jump into the tech company. You went into a very different transition, very different world, but using and utilizing those skill sets. So I love that you did that. I also love that, like I mentioned before, you stay strong within. what you felt was right for you without listening to all the voices around you. So, okay, so you went, you did all of that. And now you went into the more focused customer role within Red Hat. I know that's not what you're doing right now. So, what was that transition a little bit from that position to what you're currently doing?
So working in that role, um, again, like really great soft skill experiences help me like understand the business side of the company a little bit more because I think that sometimes, like we were saying, like people are very like narrow-minded about I want to go into this particular role, but I definitely see so many benefits of now being a software engineer and having those like customer-facing roles beforehand was really helpful, and and vice versa is certainly the same. But yeah, so I an opportunity opened where I could do kind of like pure software engineering, kind of like moving from the more infrastructure side. I'm like, I want to see if I actually enjoy this. If I full time, if I'm doing the thing that I did my degree for, if I like that because the opportunity is there. And so I jumped into it and so far it's been awesome. I am now senior software engineer. I'm doing a lot of both back end and front end development. I hadn't done any front end work before being on this team at all. I had done mostly back end and like Python work in the past, and now I'm working with TypeScript and JavaScript, and I had never done that. And so the growth has been huge. Imposter syndrome is always there. That's such a huge thing in tech because there's too much, frankly. There is too much to know. There is so much to know. And so you always feel like you don't know enough. And so kind of learning how to not fully get rid of it because on some level it can kind of push you to learn, but like keeping a tamp on it and being like, I am learning, everyone else around me is learning, and trying to be really open to other opportunities to learn technologies or work on different platforms or tools has been amazing. So at this point, I am, let's see, I guess about 5, 6 years into my career overall, if you count some of my internship years. And I think the biggest thing for me has been like being open to new opportunities and not staying in one place for too long. And so I am really open about this with like my coworkers and my manager. I'm like, I love trying new things. So if there's something new that comes up, I would love to do it because I'm not at a point in my life where I want to like dig down into a specific area of technology, which has been, I think, like I said, I keep saying growth, but that's probably my word of my career is growth and like trying as many things as I can while trying to figure out what I want to do long term. And maybe I never will. Maybe I'll still like keep trying a bunch of new things every couple of years. And if that's what works, then that's what works.
I love that you're learning something new and that you're able to like kind of go back a little bit into, okay, I graduated with this. This is what I was quote unquote supposed to do, right? But actually give it a shot. So that's also another aspect of it too is, okay, you graduated, you studied really hard, you put a lot of work and effort into it. I feel like everyone should try. Even if it's at the end of the day not what you wanna do, you should try to do the thing that you graduated with, the thing that you have so much knowledge in. And sometimes it's literally what you enjoy and you love to do. And I also love that you're very open-minded to try new things. That is me to the T. I'm always looking for something different, always looking for something more, some other aspect of growing and learning. The imposter syndrome is big for me as well of you do have people that do focus into like one thing and they're experts on it. And sometimes they feel like, "Oh, I'm doing a similar role than them, but I don't know as much." And there's all these different thoughts and perspectives that keeps going into your mind on a loop always. But the growth that you get doing something different, trying something different, is completely a whole different set of like growth than that person has focusing on one technology.
Yeah.
Everyone is growing, everyone is gonna grow their own way, their own different ways, and grow in different perspectives as well. But I'm with you on the growth of trying something new, testing it out. That's me to the core. I'm always like, okay, I'm doing this for 3, 4 years. Now what? Am I gonna jump into something else? Am I gonna have different project and opportunities within where I am? Like, what's the next thing? And I love that. I love people that are like us, that are very open minded to an opportunity sometimes comes to you and you're not scared of just jumping in and trying it out. And if you like it, that's awesome. And if you don't like it, that is okay too. You can always try to go back to what you were doing before, or you can always try to find something completely different that you never thought about then. So I love that you are like that as well, that you are just very open minded to learning and to growing, especially because it is a huge growth experience, not just career wise, but I think personally wise too. We grow so much the more that we learn and the more that we try. And we also learn so much about what we really like, what we don't like. Until
Right.
hopefully one day we find something that is just, this is perfect for me. This is where I want to be for the rest of my life. And the point that you made of, maybe we'll find that, but maybe not. And that is okay. It's something that literally just like hit me really hard because I feel like personally, very openly right now, being very honest, I'm always searching for that one thing that I'm going to love so much and be so passionate about that I want to do for the rest of my life. But the point that you just made of, if that's not the case and you keep learning and growing and changing, that is also okay. Something that I never thought about, to be fairly honest.
Yeah. I like that's kind of been like a personal realization since I took this new role is that I'm like, because I had the same thought. I need to find that thing. But I find that the most interesting stories are the people who have tried so many different things and have experienced so much. And of course, it's so inspiring when someone has been doing something for 20 years and they're just like the absolute expert. But I love hearing stories of people who just like are unafraid to try new things and like come into the tech industry, leave the tech industry, do something completely different and come back and are just like really living honestly for what they think is the most interesting at that moment. And that's been really impactful for me and kind of taken away some of the fear of making those choices because when I did take the role from IT into the kind of in between customer and developer role, I was really nervous in making that transition. And so kind of like chipping away at that fear of trying new things has been so huge and now makes me go like, okay, now what? I like what I'm doing, but if somebody came and handed me something else that sounds good tomorrow, like, okay, let's do it. Like, why not?
I love that so much because I am like that. I always have the fear of, I love what I do now. So if I leave what I'm doing now and I jump into something else, and then all those negative thoughts that comes with it, like, oh, what if I don't like it? What if this? What if that? But I feel like I have been working really hard too lately on like trying to quiet those what ifs and just jumping and doing it and be like, okay. And if you don't like it, we'll figure it out. But at least you know that you didn't like it and you didn't have that feeling of, what if I actually jumped into that, right? It's like the opposite of what if that I don't wanna have in my life of, what if I actually jumped into that and I love that and that's it. So I love that you're learning, you're growing, like, personally with that, and also teaching others, especially me, of to me, it's like a simple thought, but that's also not so simple of, what if you don't find that thing? And what if you just keep changing and growing? And that is also okay. Um I must sit with my thoughts this whole weekend now. I was like, what if I just keep changing and that is okay because that's who I am and I love trying new things. Yeah, I think I just learned something so big, so huge for me internally right now with this conversation, which I love it and I appreciate it so much.
I
Um,
love that.
no, and I definitely something that I'm gonna keep in mind moving forward now too. It's just that sense of, what if that's it? What if I do move and what if that's who I am as a person? And I love doing that. So I appreciate you saying that, like, truly. And I appreciate you just having that mindset, honestly, too, of, if I keep changing and tomorrow there's a awesome thing presented to me, I'm just gonna jump and do it. I love that. So with that in mind now, I kind of want to throw a little random question at you. What will be, you doing this role for now for a few years now and you love it. What will be one thing, one job, one opportunity that if it was handed to you tomorrow, it's something that you'll be like, "Yes, I'm jumping into it." What is the next thing that you're kind of, like, playing around with the idea of, "I wanna learn and grow in this aspect within my career?"
Ooh, okay. So again, this is we mentioned it before, and this is a very controversial thing, but it's so prevalent now. I would love to have more AI experience, but not necessarily development for it. I think the ethics and like the usage of that is really interesting, and like the kind of the guidelines about how we should be using it is really fascinating. And so because it's like any new technology. I mean, when social media and smartphones were introduced, we all kind of broke, and we're now, I mean, people now are like, I want to get rid of my smartphone. And they're like, we're like, okay, we're kind of maturing in this technology. Now we understand like maybe how to handle it in a way that's healthier. But the same is true for AI. And I think it would be interesting to be like part of the wave of figuring out how to make that more responsible before we get out of hand and do something that we shouldn't be doing with it. So yeah, I think something involving that. And then at the same time, as I say that, I'm like, I kind of want to be a barista. So I have thought about like, I should just take a part-time job as a barista because I really want to make people matcha lattes on the weekend.
That is amazing. I love how one thing is, like, fully the opposite from the other, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's just so cool. That's literally what my random thoughts too, and I thought it was just me. Sometimes I have random thoughts of, like, I don't know, I kinda wanna do this random job, even if it's part-time.
Yeah.
It's not just me. Okay. No, that is amazing
No,
to
it's not just you. I think one of my I love this because this was, like, the most interesting thing I ever heard. When I first interviewed for the initial software engineering job I had, I, like, was stalking everybody's LinkedIn, and one of the people who I interviewed with, she had done saxophone carving, like, as an artist, like, carving designs into saxophones, and I'm like, "That's the coolest thing I ever heard.
That's amazing.
How are you" I'm like, "How are you where you are now?" And I feel like it's so true of people in tech being like, I love tech, but also, like, I wanna just be not doing anything involving tech at the same time.
No, 100%. I think I love it, but I also think it drains your brain a little bit because it
It
comes
does.
so much like thoughts and processes and like trying to find solutions for problems. And it's a constant like go, go, go with your brain that I notice how a lot of people that are in tech, whatever they do outside of work is like very hands on. Very, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to figure it out a solution. I just wanna do something like a hobby or anything, so that is really true, and I love that. That is, like, the coolest thing that I've ever heard of someone that was, like, carving instruments. I'm like,
I
"What?"
know. The
That
most
is
incredible thing ever.
that is so cool. No, and I love that. I love your touch base on the AI aspect. I think it's something that everyone should at least learn a little bit about because it is taking over the world a little bit slowly. So if you don't stay up with the technology, you're gonna fall behind, sadly. Uh, so I think it's at least good to know to have some kind of understanding and knowledge, and especially a full understanding of what information you're putting out there. 100%. Where is the information going? Who has access to all of the things you're telling ChatGPT every single day?
Yeah.
And that's something I keep in mind every day. I'm like, okay, I'm having a full deep conversation with ChatGPT, but if my conversation went out to the internet, would I be okay with it?
Yeah, it kinda comes, like, full circle back to cybersecurity and information security and being like, "Okay, we need to kinda figure this out because people don't know what they're dealing with." So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%. People are putting everything on ChatGPT now. It's the new Google. And I'm guilty of it. I will not lie. But instead of going to Google, I will go to AI to ask some questions because it just goes research everything for me and it kind of gives me the answer instead of me going to multiple links, you know? So I'm guilty of it, but I'm also careful with what I'm asking. No, I love that. Now, as like a closing thought, a little bit, if you could look back into your younger self and if you you just sharing a little bit more like knowledge and experiences and no words of wisdom to the new girls that are in college right now, going through a lot of the things that we went through, trying to figure it out, their lives, their career paths. What are some of the things that you tell them, and also like your younger self?
Mm. Yeah, I would probably say some of the things that we just talked about, like be open to new opportunities, even if you think you're not going to be good at it. Because I was such a perfectionist. I was like, if I'm not going to be good at something, I don't even want to try it. And so I had such an incredible feel of fear of failure that I think it held me back for a long time in like getting rid of some of my shyness and like learning new things. And I would love to just like tell myself to kind of shake some of that off, and that like it is going to be okay if you mess up and don't like it and you want to throw it in the garbage, like that's totally fine. No one is going to be waiting with like a hammer over your head to tell you that you're terrible, and that those things just make you better. And so yeah, I would probably just kind of give myself a hug and say it's going to be okay. Like don't stress so much about trying to be perfect. And I think I would say the same to a lot of college students. I think that there is so much pressure, especially on women in STEM, to kind of like make ourselves like to have a huge impact on the world, like 40 under 40, like we have to do all of these things. And I think that can really just kind of build up some fear and stress and panic about like, what if I don't live up to these expectations? And like just kind of letting go of those expectations, being open to trying new things and understanding that that is the thing that will help you get to the place you wanna go, and maybe it will lead you to those things, and maybe it won't, but you won't know unless you kind of, like, let go of the expectations of other people and are open to opportunities that feel right for you.
I think all of us can relate to it a little bit, to be fairly honest. The aspect of trying to be perfect, I think it's something that a lot of us go through. I went through it and I still do a little bit with everything, where I'm trying really hard. Especially, I think this podcast, like project that I'm doing, it's teaching me a lot in that perspective of I wanted everything to be perfect before even starting, knowing that if
Yeah.
I wait to be perfect, I'm never gonna start and I'm never gonna do it. So I might as well just start doing it and learning with the process, knowing that there's always something to learn, something to do differently to make it better, but it's never gonna be perfect. So this has been taking me out of my comfort zone to the max. And but it's also helping me grow and learn a lot, which is really, really fun. And I always tell everyone is the very uncomfortable moments is where you truly grow. If you just stay within your comfort zone and your little bubble, you're gonna miss a lot of growth opportunities. Do what feels uncomfortable, jump on it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be great. You got this. So I love the what you just mentioned right now. Truly, I think it's something that very relates to me very deeply, and also a lot of people out there. I just wanted to say thank you,
Yeah.
and for sharing your amazing story, for sharing all your different experiences. From college to network engineer, you jump into IT, now doing software engineer, trying to be a barista, which I'm all up for it. Okay, 100% up for you getting a part time, trying to do that, being better at making all kinds of drinks. That is so fun. I love that.
Uh,
But no, I'm just very excited to what you're gonna do next with your career, with all the changes that are gonna come within the next so many years. I love that you are going to change and you are going to grow and learn so much as well, which is very, very exciting to me. Just like you mentioned in the beginning, the people that their experience is all over the place and they have done so many different things is something that I'm always so excited to hear about. So just knowing that your story is does not end as a software engineer, you're for sure gonna try and branch out to so many different directions. That is super exciting, super, super awesome to hear, truly. Um,
Thank you.
of course, no, thank you for sharing everything. It's been such an amazing time just having this conversation with you. And I just want to say thank you also for everyone that's listening to this episode with the amazing Alison Hart. She shared the most beautiful story. If you really like this episode, please just feel free to follow us, subscribe. I have a lot of amazing guests coming in to share their amazing stories and the different backgrounds and where they are in life and what the future looks like. So many different stories to share out there. All the links in the description below. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate your time again, and I'll see you guys next time.